Cup, and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. And today, well, we're in the wakes of the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. So, of course, we will look a little bit into like what happened, why did it happen, why did it happen? It's actually a great question. And we will also be looking at UFC 309. That just happened also a little bit like from a media point of view, of course, but also recapping a little bit of the action and like how the fighters communicated. Because as you know, mindful media and communication is all about communication, use of media theories and the like. So let's jump right into it. And so, like I said, we're going to talk about Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. We're going to talk a little bit about Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor. We will be talking about UFC 309, John Jones, Stipe Miocic, Charles Oliveira, Mike Chandler, and quickly maybe also touch on Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. All right. So why? I think that goes without saying, especially with the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. While I am not a Jake Paul fan at all, it stands to reason that this is one of the biggest events that Netflix has ever put on. Probably the biggest live event for sure that Netflix has ever put on, because so far they only had, I think, stand-up comedy live events, concerts maybe, I'm not sure. But it's 60 million people, they said, watching, servers breaking down, showing terrible quality apparently. Here in Asia, while my cats are going crazy behind me, also not Jake Paul fans. Here in Asia, the quality was fine actually, so I signed up for the second cheapest. I reactivated my account with the second cheapest option, so not the mobile only option, but the desktop option, while Snooze is breaking all my things. Hey! Maybe a cat episode coming soon. I only have one cat left. No, I'm kidding. So the issues, the streaming issues weren't as big here, I think, but I read on X that in the US lots of problems. So hey, Netflix, something to work on when wrestling is coming over. Speaking of wrestling, I mean, that was not a real fight, right? I mean, could Jake Paul have finished Mike Tyson? Who knows? Maybe he could have gone harder. He said in the end he held back, which, what a shitty thing to say. Even if you do it, you don't say it. But then secondly, Tyson did not throw any right hand. He didn't throw any punch. Like, that must have been in the contract, right? You can't let your hands go on Jake Paul. He had like 2 hooks or something, and that was just ridiculous. Come on. But I'm not just a boxing critic. I'm also looking at like, okay, why do those things happen? And then one theory I thought of while preparing this quick episode today was a theory that we haven't discussed yet, and it's we call it in media theories the media event theory. Okay, so media event theory suggests that media events are important for an audience, for us, because that's how we gather, right? So they become what we call in media studies cultural experiences. So they draw mass attention and creating like this global conversation. And Jake Paul, Mike Tyson clearly did that, because I'm in Thailand and not everybody, but lots of people were also talking about it here. Sports bars showing it early in the morning and so on, right? So the build-up of Tyson Paul was like this global thing. Like, can the old guard go on, like, have one last ride versus that new kid on the block that no one likes, that's just so cocky and pardon me, right? So that was of course part of the build-up. And also then the co-main was of course Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor, also a rematch from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Katie Taylor won by split decision, and she won like quite controversial. So what about that rematch 2 years in the making, in the Mecca, right? And the first, was it the first one, but the biggest stadium boxing event, like with 70,000 people or so, right? UFC 309, then that's where the Mecca comes in. They're like, we are in Madison Square Garden, the Mecca, and so on, right? So all of those events were like pumped up to be like must-watch spectacles, right? UFC when like John Jones, Stipe Miocic. Stipe might be the last fight. John Jones, the greatest of all time. Can he take out the greatest heavyweight of all time? You know, all this build-up, insane. So media event theory again suggests that media events become like spectacles that we need to watch because we want to be part of communication. It's like part of a cultural experience. You've seen so many celebrities there, so many pop culture icons there, because they know that this is part of the talk, part of like what we, the fans, will be talking about. So they need to be part of the discussion, right? So that's why everybody goes to those events. And hand in hand with that goes, of course, the cultivation theory, which you are probably aware of because I mentioned it several times before. Cultivation theory focuses on the idea that long-term media exposure shapes perceptions, right? So the way you portray fighters and the narratives around their personas and like how broadcasts about them influence public perception of those fighters and of combat sports. So, for example, right, Mike Tyson's online persona changed over the years, obviously, right? Mike Tyson's persona in the public eye changed, but he's still like this how he called himself, like a natural born killer. While of course we all know Jake Paul as like the internet troll from back in the day, and now that guy that throws all the money at his training, of course, and still trolling a lot, obviously. Brother of Logan Paul that everybody hates right now because he's scamming people allegedly. So different personas, right? And also when it comes to the UFC, there are different personas, like Stipe Miocic, like that guy that hates talking to the media. Even though Nina Drama brought out like the real Stipe, which was hilarious, by the way. Good job, Nina. John Jones, according to Dana White, the greatest fighter to ever walk the planet or the face of the earth, or whatever you want to say. For us fans who followed longer, we know like drug abuse, steroid cheater, hitting a pregnant woman with a car, driving off, domestic abuse allegations, allegedly. So, but yeah, different frames, of course, try to put them into different lights, and cultivation means like the more you're exposed to this, that's what Dana White is trying to do, right? He tries to mention every single time he's got a mic in his hand, John Jones is the greatest fighter to ever walk the face of the earth. John Jones is the greatest fighter, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. That's cultivation theory. Expose us long enough so that we'll be like, yeah, sure, John Jones is the GOAT, all right? What other examples do we have with the fighters? I mean, we have Katie Taylor being like more of a traditional fighter, of course, like traditional boxer, not as like flamboyant, maybe as, for example, Jake Paul. Same with Amanda Serrano, of course, so like also not as crazy flamboyant as Jake Paul. We have Charles Oliveira, who is also not as flamboyant as John Jones, for example, who's like more like, I'm grinding and I'm gonna work and I'm gonna persevere. More on this also in a second, because he did persevere quite impressively. We have Michael Chandler, who's like the I don't know, humanized version of like any AI TEDx TED talk ever imagined. See you at the top. I can't wait what he's gonna say like on Ariel Helwani's show like on Monday. I mean, it's Monday in Thailand already, but for those who are not in Thailand, on Monday on Ariel's show it's gonna be like, every door that closes is there an option to wait 2 more years for Conor McGregor, I guess. So that's one thing. So that's also cultivation, right? Like how fighters are being portrayed or portraying themselves to cultivate a certain image, and that keeps going hand in hand with the next 2 or 3 theories, and I'm done with the theory part. But I think it's just so nice or interesting how to see how they actually really apply in everyday life, because we also have agenda setting, right? Because agenda setting, as we discussed also in previous episodes, is like not like telling us what to think, but what topics to think about. So promotional content, for example, for fights, post-event coverage that drives public discourse and public engagement. And so there's different media coverage and platform-specific trends, for example, that surrounds all those events, which then gives different kinds of prominence to every fight, right? Like Tyson Paul. Like, is Jake Paul legit? Can Mike Tyson turn back the clock? Serrano-Taylor, who's the best female fighter ever? For example, Stipe Miocic, can he be the one to defeat John Jones? This old school legend, can he be the one that defeats John Jones, for example? No, he could not, and that was not a surprise at all. Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, who will be the #1 contender? Things like this. Bo Nickal, can he continue his rise to stardom by smashing Paul Craig? He could not, but I mean, he still won. Yeah, all those questions, that's all agenda setting theory. Okay, do not tell us what to think, tell us what to think about. Okay. We also look at user gratification theory a little bit, because user gratification means basically give the viewer what they want. So if I understand what the viewer wants, I can give it to them. So why do people watch fights? Entertainment, social interaction, maybe actually learning something from the fights. And streaming platforms, of course, they tap into that whole thing, right? Those desires. So that makes sense. I look into user gratification. What does the audience want? Jake Paul fans want entertainment, want outlandish stuff. Mike Tyson fans want like that hardcore boxing, like let's focus on let's get it done kind of approach to it, right? Stipe Miocic fans want different things than John Jones fans. I had John Jones fans. Charles Oliveira fans, the champ has a name, want different things than Michael Chandler fans, for example, right? So if you know what they all want, you can present the fighters in different lights so that we as fans get what we desire. But that's all theories we covered quite a few times, and the framing theory goes still hand in hand with that. So I'm going to throw this in too, because we frame things in a certain way, right? Via language, via visuals, via story angles. For example, like, can Amanda Serrano bounce back from her split decision loss to Katie Taylor 2 years ago? Or will she fall back into it, and will she remember it? Will she be like, oh my God, no, can't she do it? Can John Jones keep improving in heavyweight? Can Stipe Miocic be the old Stipe one more time? Can Charles Oliveira bounce back after his loss to Armin Tsarukyan? Can Michael Chandler overcome 2 years waiting on the sidelines? All those things, that's all framing, right? So how do you frame a story to get the audience interested? Okay, I have 2 more theories that I want to throw at you, and then I'm going to recap a little bit. One is symbolic interactionism. I mentioned a few times on this pod, but not that many times, so I thought it's going to make sense here as well, because symbolic interactionism basically means how media shapes interactions and meanings. Okay, so look at the branding of fighters like Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Bo Nickal, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, and all of them, right? They all have specific symbols that resonate with an audience. A symbol, I don't mean like a symbol or a hand signal, but something they're wearing, a catchphrase. See you at the top, Michael Chandler, for example, right? Charles Oliveira with a bleach blonde hair, for example. Yeah. So gestures, post-fight interviews, taglines, that's all meant when we say symbols. And symbolic interactionism means we interact with the symbols, we relate to those symbols. Yeah. When I say the champ has a name, Charles Oliveira's tagline, right? Then I'm interacting with that fighter because I sympathize with it, right? The champ has a name. His name is Charles Oliveira. And John Jones doing the, stupid Trump dance after he won, right? Bo Nickal with the golf swing to indicate I played golf with Donald Trump. Like, that's all symbolic interactionism, okay? So that is designed to connect with the audience more, because the audience is like, hey, that's cool, I like it, I know that, whatever. And that's how I connect with the fighter. Okay, that's symbolic interactionism. And the last thing, we also discussed a few times, but I think it's very appropriate to discuss it here, parasocial interaction, parasocial relationships, okay? So parasocial relationships, I think, helps to explain like fighter-audience relationships, okay? So Jake Paul's engagement, for example, with the fans through YouTube, social media, and so on, creates like this parasocial relationship, those parasocial bonds that make you feel like you know him, because you've seen it since like the Disney Club or whatever that was. Yeah, since he was like 5 and now he's 27. So you've been exposed to him for like over 20 years. You grew up with him. And so you think you have a relationship. He doesn't know who you are, right? But you think you know him very well. That's called parasocial relationship. Okay, and that's what everybody wants, basically, because then it means that the audience is very interested in you, invested. I think that's what might be missing for Amanda Serrano, for example, or maybe Katie Taylor. Even though they have hardcore fans as well, of course, but not as many as of course, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, and Michael Chandler, another example, who like puts everything on social media, like his family, his adopted kids and everything. You're like, oh my God, he's such a nice guy, and he seems to be a nice guy in real life. I just can't stand this like see the top persona, but it's just me, okay? So that all leads to parasocial relationships, parasocial interaction. You think you know the person, and that's why you're invested, but of course they don't know you. Okay? It's like a one-way street of like relationship, so to speak. And the last thing, when it comes to not necessarily theories, but things I want to analyze, is just also the monetization angle from this whole thing, right? Because while Tyson Paul was on Netflix, for example, which then means either you subscribe to Netflix and then you cancel again after a month, or you pay like, I don't know, here in Thailand it's like 150 baht, whatever that might be then in dollars, let it be $10 or something. While in the UFC pay-per-view, either you subscribe to ESPN, right, or you then do PPV, pay-per-view, and you pay like whatever it might be, $70 for the event. I'm not sure. Of course, also different ways, but it's different monetization angles as well, of course, with advertising in between, product placement all the time, of course. And kind of crazy how everything has become like really commercial, like super commercialized, even though you're already paying quite a premium price to just access it and just to watch it. And now for the analysis part, right? Okay. So let me start with Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, because it was clearly not a fight. I do think that Jake Paul didn't try to go all out and try to kill Tyson in the last round or so. But I think it's also mainly because he knew that Mike Tyson probably agreed to not hurt him, not to let his right hand go. And so that would have just been like an a-hole move, actually go for broke and try to get Tyson out of there if Tyson's not allowed to throw a punch. Why do I think that Tyson wasn't allowed to throw a punch? Because he had so many openings to do it, especially in the first 1 or 2 rounds. Right, that quick 1-2 step in, or that quick hop step in with the jab, and then in. I know he's 58, but he didn't even try to let it go. Right. That said, he's 58. What the hell are we doing? 27-year-old versus a 58-year-old. You're fighting your grandpa. What in the this is, it feels wrong on so many levels, and I cannot understand why we're all watching it. Shame on all of us, seriously. Shame on the commission for allowing it, but shame on all of us for actually like falling into the trap and talking about it before and after. And it's ridiculous. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, biggest daylight robbery I've seen live, I think, happening, because there was no way in hell Katie Taylor won. Then she gets a point deducted for like leading with the head the whole time, and she still wins on all 3 scorecards. Even without the point deduction, I thought Serrano won, but I can see how like those flurries in between can get points for Taylor. But with a point deduction, there should have been no way that Katie Taylor wins. Coach of Serrano then said at the end, like, she's a nice girl, but she fights dirty, which is a fair assessment. I'm glad he didn't make it personal, but it's a fair assessment. Katie Taylor came out later saying, like, you can all shut up. I won twice. What do you want? Kind of like I'm paraphrasing, but kind of like that. Like, that's just also a bad taste, but also like communication-wise, doesn't get you any more fans. Katie Taylor, that's not how you handle that. That's definitely not how you can be like, I won, great fight, thanks Amanda Serrano, let's run it back a 3rd time to really leave no doubt who's the best woman fighter ever. But you decide to be like, no, I won, shut up. Maybe not the best way of getting about in this regard, going about in this regard. So clear daylight robbery. Serrano definitely won that. And I know there are people like Dave Portnoy out there who are like fantastic boxing experts, not biased at all, will say that Katie Taylor definitely won and Dave Portnoy just needs to go away. Go eat more pizza, Dave Portnoy. I had no real interest, or like no favorites before this fight, and I was like, Amanda Serrano must have won that, and I did not have any favorites before. It's not that I couldn't care less, but I'm not into boxing per se anyways, and so the last time I saw a women's boxing fight was Serrano-Taylor won. So yes, take it for what you want. When it comes to UFC 309, John Jones, Stipe Miocic, almost like Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Like, what did you think would happen? Stipe Miocic hasn't fought since 2021, I think, 3 years. And I mean, at that age, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, he's, what is he, 41, 40, 41, 42, whatever that might be. And yes, I know I'm the same age, but I'm not a professional UFC fighter fighting against one of the greatest fighters ever. So what did you think might happen? Last time he fought, he got like separated from his consciousness. and then he's out for 3 years, not fighting, and you think he can just step in and fight one of the greatest fighters ever? Like, oh, that people even thought this would be close. Like Ariel Helwani, like the best MMA journalist ever, to like, oh, it was such a great performance by John Jones, and it was a decent performance by John Jones, but he fought someone who moves like a grandpa right now, okay? Like, and Ariel said on his show, he said like something like, for those new fans who don't know Stipe, should look back and watch like Stipe's highlight knockouts from back in the day. And yes, they were great, and he's been a great champion. But that happened 5+ years ago. So that doesn't help anyone to look back and be like, Stipe used to be great. Yes, he used to, and let's put him, but he used to be great, so let's put him in with a dangerous guy that's dangerous right now. That does not work. The equation doesn't hold up. I don't understand how people like Ariel and others don't see that. Like, just because he knocked out people 5 years ago doesn't mean he can still do it. It's ridiculous. Michael Chandler saw that. Let's move to the co-main event, which was actually a good fight. But he got dominated by Charles Oliveira for 4.5 rounds. And because he was out for, A, he's getting older too, but B, he was out for 2 years. So the ring rust isn't real. Ring rust is real, apparently, right? He's been out for 2 years. He's been in training camp for like 1.5 years out of that. So, I mean, and Charles Oliveira is a better fighter. But, I mean, it's clear that it doesn't work like that. So the notion that Stipe should have had a chance is just ridiculous. So Chandler, Oliveira just, Charlie Olives is back, and I'm all here for it. One more run, Charlie Olives, one more run. Dominate Chandler for 4.5 rounds. 5th round, Chandler came out like guns blazing as he had to because he was down 0-4. Then landed like 72 shots to the head, which is an illegal shot. Fantastic. Keith Peterson just watching. Maybe Dominic Cruz was right after all, and Keith Peterson smells like cigarettes and drunk. Ridiculous. Glad it didn't lead to anything. Charles Oliveira then found his way to the backpack position again, and then of course Michael Chandler. I mean, yes, he had to do it. I mean, there was nothing else left, and he knew if he just goes out like without a flurry, then it will be just another loss on his record. So he muscles up, does a back slam. Of course, Charles doesn't let go. He muscles up again, does another back slam, and of course Charles doesn't let go again. And then Charles with the tongue out, like, nah, that's it, man, that's it. Which was also great for Charles, so that Chandler couldn't just steal the spotlight by losing 4.5 rounds. And anything that people talk about is like the Chandler slam, which didn't even lead to anything. But that was so cool by Michael Chandler. Yeah, so cool. You lost 4.5 rounds. So let's just also focus on the winner and the rightful #1 contender, Charles "to Bronx" Oliveira, because the future champ has a name. And while Islam Makhachev will probably walk through Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira will get his belt back. That's my bold prediction right here for you. In the post-fight conferences, John Jones was arrogant, as always, said he's not going to fight Tom Aspinall. And then he's like, okay, if the UFC pays me FU money, I will fight Tom Aspinall. Dana White said he will definitely fight Tom Aspinall. Let's see what's going to happen. I predict John Jones retires, vacates the belt. Because he doesn't like to be pushed around. He's going to fake some injury or something, and then he's going to be gone. Charles Oliveira complained about Michael Chandler, which is fair because Michael Chandler, shots to the back of the head, grabbed the glove, inside the glove, which is not allowed. I poked and didn't get a single warning, which is just ridiculous. Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, see you at the top with all the fouls possible, which was a bit annoying. Bo Nickal won like a very boring fight and not impressive at all, but hey, his first, I think, ranked opponent, so it's good for him that he won all 3 rounds, so hey, can't hate too much there. Was just dominant, but can't hate too much, so good job there, Bo Nickal. 1 second snooze. Other than that, I mean, nothing much to write home about, I believe. The Fighting Notes keep rolling. Fighting Notes undefeated this year, so congratulations to the Fighting Notes. I would like a pardon me, I would like a Fighting Notes shirt, bully beatdown of fighting back the bullies or fight against bullies. I like that. Send me one if you can. And other than that, that's it for this episode of the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication, breaking down Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor, UFC 309, Stipe Miocic, John Jones, and Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. Let me know what you thought about the events. Did you watch it? Did you hate it? Did you like it? Can you wait for the next Jake Paul fight? Can't you wait for the next Jake Paul fight? Will Mike Tyson beat up Logan Paul? What's next for John Jones? Retirement. What's next for Charles Oliveira? Title fights. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe, like, share, leave comments, leave reviews. That helps a lot. Until then, I will walk my cat now. Until then, stay safe, take care, keep your guards up. Sorry.